اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب زدني علما رب زدني علما رب زدني علما يا فتاح يا عليم افتح لنا فتحا قريبا آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We were learning the Makharij, and in the last lesson we covered the Makharij of al-lisan, the tongue. And in today's lesson, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to review the Makharij of the tongue and continue learning in depth, in detail about those letters that come from the tongue. The tongue has in total 10 makharij, and those 10 makharij are divided into 5 and 5. 5 makharij are from the tip of the tongue, and 5 makharij are from the non-tip of the tongue. However, from those makharij comes the letters. From the non-tip, the letters that come from the non-tip are 7, and from the tip of the tongue are 11. So in total, from the tongue comes 18 letters. And then you can see that we need to look at the two things, the makharij from the tongue and the letters from the tongue. So we have 10 makharij and 18 letters. Those letters are Qaf, Kaf, Jim, Shin, Ya, Bod, Lam, Noon, Ra, Sin, Sad, Za, Ta, Ta, Dal, Tha, Dhal, and Va. These are 18 letters in total, which have been divided into the non-tip and the tip letters. Okay, so you might have heard about the other names that have been used to describe the makharij from the tongue. For example, aqsa lisan, wasat al-lisan, hafat al-lisan, adna al-hafa. All of these names that you might have heard it before, they all fall under the non-tip makharij. And the taraf al-lisan is the one which is called tip of the tongue letters. Okay, taraf al-lisan is the tip of the tongue letters, and غير taraf al-lisan, which is the non-tip, is the one which include the aqsa lisan, wasat al-lisan, hafat al-lisan. I hope so this will help, inshallah. And now let's start looking at those letters that come from the non-tip first. Okay, so we have the qaf and the kaf. These two letters come from aqsa lisan, and as I said, it's a non-tip letter. The qaf is a heavy letter and the kaf is a light letter. From the furthest or the remotest part of the tongue that touches what lies opposite to it is the soft palate. So the qaf comes from the makhraj of aqsa lisan, and there you can see the back of the tongue, which is the remotest part of the tongue. It touches the soft palate, and the tongue from the middle is curved. Since it's a heavy letter, it has tafkhim. There would be an echo in the sound. The qaf comes from this makhraj. However, under the qaf, towards the mouth, comes the letter kaf. Again, this is also from the back of the tongue, or the remotest part of the tongue, in front of the qaf. And what it touches is, it touches the soft and the hard palate. As you can see from this yellow dot, that for the kaf, the tongue is raised and is touching the soft and the hard palate. So the kaf will be pronounced lightly. Why do we pronounce the letter kaf light whilst the qaf heavy, since they both come from the back of the tongue? The thing is that we need to know that to bring heaviness, the tongue not only should be raised from the back, but also there should be a curve or concaving of the tongue from the middle, as you can see it here. But in the letter kaf, there is no concaving. The tongue is flat. So the tongue, when the sound is coming from the back, it comes out straight away. See the difference between the qaf and the kaf. The qaf is a thick letter, and it's a heavy letter. It has tafkhim. Tafkhim means thickness, heaviness. Whilst the letter kaf is a thin letter, means it has tarqiq. For the letter qaf, the back of the tongue is raised. As you can see it here, it's touching the soft palate. For the letter kaf, the tongue is raised, but the sound is lowered. In the qaf, the sound is elevated. For the letter qaf, since the back of the tongue is raised and it's covering the whole of the soft palate, that results in the throat being narrowed. For the letter kaf, the throat is wide. It's not been narrowed. When you read the letter qaf with the sukoon on it, and you would need to join with another letter before it, which should have a haraka, and then you see it together, what happens? The sound will be blocked. As you have seen it there, the sound will be blocked. What you need to apply now is the qalqala. You need to bounce the sound, aqo, aqo. You need to apply the qalqala on the letter qaf. But again, the back of the tongue for the letter kaf is raised and it is touching the hard and the soft palate. That also blocks the sound. When it comes from this part, it gets blocked. The sound is imprisoned. You need to disconnect the tongue from the palate, but we do not apply the qalqala. We apply the hums, means the flow of an air. Ak, 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 like that. This is the difference between the letter qaf and the kaf. Even though both of these letters come from the remotest part of the tongue. The letters jim, sheen, and the ya, they're also called, if you put them together as a word, you can read it as jaish, jim, ya, and the sheen. You can make a word out of it. The makharij for these three letters is the same, wasat al-lisan, from the middle part of the tongue. This is a non-tip letter again. So what happens that you would raise the middle part of the tongue towards the hard palate, but the letter jim will be the only letter which would touch the palate. The letter sheen and the ya will come close to the palate, but the tongue does not get into contact with the palate, means it doesn't touch the palate. So you can see the makhraj for all of these three letters is the same. They come from the same place, but they are different in their sifat, means they have the different characteristics. We will learn the difference between these three letters. For the letter jim, there is no gap between the tongue and the palate, as you can see in the picture. The sound and the breath are cut, means when you say the letter jim with the sukoon, putting a haraka before it on hamza, and try to say it ad, what happens? The sound and the breath, they both are cut off. You need to release the tongue by immediately, instantly disconnecting from the palate, which will result in bouncing sound. We call it qalqala. So aj, aj, aj. For the letter ya, the tongue will be raised, but there would be a small gap between the palate and the tongue for the sound to run thoroughly, to run through freely. So when you say ay, 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 As you can see, the sound is running through freely. The breath is cut, but the sound runs, because for this letter, there is no extra breath involved. The tongue is peaked in the middle. You can see it here. A, A, A. Likewise, for the letter Sheen, there is a gap between the palate and the tongue. The breath and the sound runs through freely. Ash, ash, ash. For the letter Sheen and the Ya, if you compare them, the Sheen has both the breath and the sound running, but for the letter Ya, it's only the sound that runs, not the breath. For the letter Jim, the sound and the breath, they both get imprisoned. They got cut off when you try to say it with the sukun. These are the differences between these three letters with regards to their characteristics, even though they come from the same place. Now we move on to the letter Lam. The letter Lam, the Makharij for this letter is near edges of the tongue until the tip touching the upper gums. So you can see in the image, the tongue that is been colored in blue, that is the near edges of the tongue. So this would be the tip if you count this letter from the point of view of the tip letters. This is the tip, but these are the sides of the tongue. Therefore, we do not count the lam amongst the tip letters because it uses its sides all the way from one side of the tongue towards the other side until it also includes the tip. So if you place this tongue against your upper palate, attaching to the upper gums, the gums of the teeth which are involved are from dahik to another dahik, from one side of the first premolars to the other side of the premolar teeth. So all of this area is touched when you say the lam. L, L, L. This is the makhraj for the letter lam. Lam is a light letter. It also can take tafkhim. When do we have it? You can see it. The lam is a light letter, but when you say alladhi, kalla, the pronunciation of the lam is light. The sound will be muraqqaq. However, there is an exception. In the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the lam is heavy when it has a fatha or a dhamma before it. It's light when the lam has a kasra before it. So only for the word lafzul jalala, the word Allah, if the lam, this is the lam, which is the middle lam in the word Allah that you need to look at. If this word has a fatha or a dhamma before it, the lam in the middle is pronounced heavily. But if it has a kasra before it, the lam will be pronounced lightly. How? This is how it will be read. Wallahu, Wallahu, Rasulullahi. But with the kasra before it, you'll say Billahi, Billahi. So see the difference between the two pronunciation. Lahu, Lahi. Allahu, Lahi. So only in the word Allah, the lam is pronounced heavily. And again, it needs to meet the condition of the haraka, the fatha and the dhamma before it. Otherwise, the lam is a light letter. You can see for the letter lam, the image is showing for the light lam, the tongue is not concaved from the middle. The throat is not narrowed. There is no echo in the mouth. However, here, this is an image for showing the heaviness of the letter lam. This is the shape of the tongue. This is raised from the back towards the palate. The throat is narrowed. There is a concaving in the middle of the tongue, and because of the concaving in the middle of the tongue, there would be echo in the mouth. The sound will be elevated. You'll touch the makharij and you'll say the lam mufakham, which is the heavy, okay, the heavy lam. Okay, inshallah ta'ala, we will move on to the next makharij now. The letter lam was from the sides of the tongue. There's another letter. Before we move on to the next letter, we would learn further about the teeth, because you need to know the teeth which are involved in it. So here in this picture, you can see one. So this diagram shows the contact area of the tongue and the gum. The area covers 2 upper central incisors, 2 upper lateral incisors, 2 canines, and 2 first premolars. And I explained that earlier as well. So here you can see the picture from one dahik to another dahik. Okay, so all of these teeth are involved when you're trying to say the lam. So if you remember, if you memorize the names of these teeth, this will help you in the long run. This premolar is called dahik. So one side and another side, they both are the same name, dahik. Then you have anyab, rubaiyat, and thanaya. Okay, thanaya uliya, which is the upper front central incisors. I hope this will help you, inshallah. Now we would move on to the next makhraj, which is the letter dad. The letter dad also comes from the side of the tongue, the edges of the tongue, hafat al-lisan we call it. One or both far edges of the tongue touching upper molar teeth. The makhrij starts from back molars, where pressure builds up, and finishes at the makhrij of the letter lam. Okay, so pay attention to the name of these teeth, and the letter dad is pronounced from this area. So this is called hafat aqsal hafa. Aqsal hafa means the far edge. This is the part of the tongue which is in green, both side or one side. Okay, so for the dad you can use both or one side of the tongue to pronounce it. However, when we prepare our tongue to pronounce the letter dad, we would need to touch the whole sides of the tongue from here all the way to here. So you can say touching area, so no pressure. If you place this tongue onto your upper teeth, this area is only touched. You do not press or build any pressure on the front part of the tongue. Remember, this was the makhraj for the letter lam, the same makhraj. You just touch that part, but the pressure is built up, and when you seal your tongue, what happens, there would be this gap between the middle of the tongue and your hard palate. Yeah, this will be like a tunnel. This would be like an empty space in the mouth where you would be keep on adding pressure through your sound. You keep on filling it up with your sound along with the air. these two sides will get pushed. Okay, so this will be the area where you need to put pressure on. So you do not leave the tongue from here, even though this is only a touching part. You do not leave this tongue off from this place. So you keep pressing against your teeth along with the sides of the tongue. So from here till here, right or left. Okay, these are the tawahin. These teeth are called tawahin. So al bod, bod, bo, 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 bu, bui, bod, al. When you say the letter bod with the sukoon, the tongue, due to the pressure being built up in the mouth, it gets slipped from the front. Okay, so the pronunciation, when you're pronouncing the letter bod, the sound continues, but it's within the mouth. Okay, the sound, the makharij is prolonged. The tongue slips slightly forward under the pressure that we built up. Bod. Bod is one of the heavy letters. It has tafkhim. It has the characteristic of istitala. Istitala is the lengthened makhraj. So with practice, inshallah, you can get this letter right, inshallah. We will move on to the next letter now. The letter that comes after the bod is the letter from the tip. So until now we have covered the non-tip letters. So the letters from the non-tip was the qaf and kaf. Then we learned the letters jim, sheen and the ya, bod and the lam. So these were the letters that were coming from the non-tip. So inshallah ta'ala, we will move on to the next tip letters in the next session, inshallah ta'ala. So subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.